Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What's up, people of the internet? Dave, Duncan and Kyle back for another album review. And for this review, Duncan, Kyle and I have been checking out the new album from Canadian extreme technical death metal band Archspire. The band's new album, Bleed the Future, will be released on October 29th via Season of Mist Records. So, if you haven't been keeping up with our YouTube channel, we recently, a wee while ago, reacted to...
I think this is a wee while ago as well. I think we just think everything's
6
recent.
months ago.
Yeah. I think we haven't done a reaction in months. So
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
everything's now, like, it feels like it was yesterday, but
Yeah.
it was a while ago, Dave.
It was a while ago. Should we do some more reactions, actually? That's reminding me about that.
Let's do more. Yes.
A wee while ago.
Because we don't do enough, Dave. I mean,
That's
we don't
true.
Review
We are.
shitloads of albums, podcasts, and Twitch. Let's do more reactions.
Yeah, we're kind of
I
slacking a
think
wee bit.
sometimes we're slacking off, to be honest.
Totally, 100%. Yeah, we checked out Golden Mouth of Ruin.
Not doing it. I did
Okay,
the jokes on that video. This is how you get people to go and check. There was humour and hilarity and witty banter on that reaction video, and if you want to hear what that is, go and listen to that.
Fuck's sake, Duncan. Okay.
It sounds like someone pissing in someone's mouth. Right. Not the song.
There we go.
It's not the song, but the title of the song, because my brain is broken. Like, it's been stomped on more than once. Like, when I hear Golden Mouth of Ruin, all I can think about is someone opening their mouth and the other person pissing in it. Which I'm also sure was not their intention when they, one,
Probably
chose
not.
the song title, or two, wrote the music. Unless the
think so.
press statement says otherwise.
Well, funny you should say that, Duncan. We checked out that track, and I think Duncan and I were into it, and interested to hear where the rest.
Kyle loved it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Best thing I've heard this year. First time I've done this, but I'm giving a 5 stars out to a reaction.
Oh, could it
That's what I
be
said.
first 5-star album review from Kyle this year? Could it be?
Yeah.
You
There
never know.
is, if you subscribe to the multiple dimension theory, there is a dimension out there where I said that.
There's a dimension out there where you've not given a 5 out this year. Then.
Yeah. I've only given about 10 or 12.
Kyle.
There's been a lot of good albums. Fuck off.
You're getting a lot of backhanders for somewhere.
Yeah.
Who are these people?
Not the sexy backhanders
no, they
that I'm
were
thinking
Faceless.
about. Hashtag reach around.
No, they're in front.
Because Kyle likes to make eye contact.
Let me know your
Could make this really awkward for you. Go for it then. Anyway, this serious sounding band that crafted a really techie album that we like to single of,
Yes.
but Kyle was maybe on the fence.
Yes, moving on. This is album number 4 from Archspire. This one coming 4 years since Relentless Mutation, which was a beast of an album, as it has to be said. This one, the band started writing actually back in 2018, but obviously due to the pandemic, it has been kind of slightly pushed back. But I suppose, like other bands, it did give them more time to critique the songs and perfect them to a level they were happy with. They've toured kind of relentlessly after they released that last album, and the band said themselves it really gave them an idea of, in that kind of live setting, it gave them more of an understanding of what fans really wanted, what the crowd really wanted to hear. What could they do more of, what parts do people really react to. They wanted to expand and kind of write those parts more consistently, have bigger hooks and repeat those hooks so people know that this is the catchy part of the song. But they also wanted the album to be more accessible in a way, to keep, to like Still keep it extreme and fast and technical, but kind of give people an in into their sound as well. Guitarist Dean Lamb said, so we changed our process this time. We recorded rehearsals every day and listened to what we did afterward. We'd then come back to the jam spot and change riffs and ideas based on what everyone was thinking about it during the week. It resulted in an album that everyone was happier with. It's an extremely tedious writing process, adds bassist Jared. If anyone isn't feeling a riff, we scrap it and have to find something we're all happy with. It can be super frustrating in the moment, but in the end we have something better. We want everything we write to be a step up, and I think we achieved that with Bleed the Future. This album is accompanied by a concept developed by Aileron that begs the question, what happens when humans start giving birth to non-humans? Born from a weird dream the vocalist had, Bleed the Future's concept does not have finality or a conclusion. It does, however, posit a few ethical dilemmas to ties into Archspire's long-running science fiction themes. Okay, one other thing they also said was they wanted to get faster, which is a bit of a tall order considering like how fast some of the material was on Relentless Mutation. But on the album Closer, a track called AUM, they tried just that, which we'll get into as this review goes on. So, album was recorded in November 2020 at Flatline Audio in Colorado with producer-engineer Dave Otero. This was the second consecutive album the band worked with Dave Otero. Okay, so on to the album. I think what hit me the most on this album is how kind of technically immense this is. Like this, there is not a note out of place. Every instrument is delivered with utter precision and pinpoint execution.
It's clinical. It's like mercilessly clinical. It's a school. Yeah,
100%. The last album was quite similar, but this feels even kind of tighter than before. Partly, obviously, as Kyle will probably agree, down to the production, it must be said, but also kind of down to the fact that the band have clearly worked on these tracks meticulously to the point where every note is like almost immaculately placed. We've heard some really technical albums this year, from bands like Ophidian Eye and Illustrium, Cognitive and Fairy. And Archspire have most definitely released an album that sits comfortably alongside those releases. This album really kind of highlights the level of musicianship these guys have. Every track has a moment where you just feel kind of embarrassed by your own musical ability. Like when I was listening to this, I was like, I heard like Spencer Pruitt, the drummer. Like I was listening to this, I was just like, I just want to give up playing drums. Like after listening to this, I was like, it must have taken an obscene amount of time to get to this level. It's really mind blowing. Some of the fills, the bass drum work he pulls off on this release is outstanding. And that's not just aimed at the drums. Like the guitar work is punishingly good. A special mention though, I think, needs to go to the bassist Jared Smith. Not only does he keep up with the guitar work, but he brings a massive presence to this release. He really knows when to kind of thicken things up in the heavier parts of the album, but when the spotlight kind of turns on him, he really stands out on this album. His playing is sublime. And the album just kind of steamrolls you from the get-go. When that first track kicks in, Drone Corpse Aviator, it's just like they've opened the gates of hell. There's a very short guitar build-up, and then it's just a frenzy of heavy technical guitars, blasts, guttural vocals, and all I kept thinking was, my god, how tight this sounds. Like the little kind of starts and stops where these little patterns are all synced up between the guitars and drums. It's sickeningly tight. And it does put you in mind the bands like Wormed or even Aborted to some extent. But I liked how they didn't just kind of annihilate your ears on that first track. There's some really nice lead work kind of bled into the kind of quieter moments where the bass takes more of the spotlight, and you can really hear Jared show off his playing. And speaking of which, even though it feels like they are hitting you with everything, it didn't sound cluttered or messy at all. The bass still cuts through the mix perfectly. You can hear it whether it's going for something really kind of heavy or fast and kind of super technical. And I know, I mentioned earlier, they said they were trying to bring some bigger hooks. I don't know if I necessarily got that on the first track. I thought it was technically flawless. It had some really super cool moments. But apart from the kind of lead work, I don't think it really felt overly hook laden. Maybe the kind of the vocal line for the title of the track, maybe, but track 2 then kicks in. Obviously, you've got Golden Mouth the Ruin, and I think that track is more hook laden, and I can see why they picked it as a single. It definitely kind of demonstrates the playing ability. It's far more memorable as a track, I thought. Plenty of great riffs and varied rhythms, but vocally, I think it's very well delivered. Lots of really cool vocal patterns and rhythms that kind of accentuate the riffs and the drumming. I think we mentioned on the review, it's very percussive sounding, which did, and I mentioned it before, it did remind me a little bit of Visceral Bleeding. And I think as the album goes on, it definitely had more memorable moments than the previous release. And I think it's a kind of combination of the vocal style and the kind of repetition lyrically, and also that really kind of expansive lead work that fades in and out of the tracks. I'm usually a kind of like riff guy, like I'm all about the kind of neck breaking riffs, but it was the lead work on this that really caught my attention. Tracks like Abandon the Linear and the title track kind of reminded me of that contrasted here from a band like Seven Horns, Seven Eyes. The kind of heaviness being merged with that huge melodic streak, it just really worked for me on this album. It also kind of stops the tracks from becoming too overpowering at times. I think the balance of the kind of light and shade on tracks like Abandon the Linear or Drain of Incarnation really helped make these tracks almost less exhausting to listen to. But don't get me wrong, there are tracks where they just go hell for leather and they deliver like the heaviness, and those big moments they tend to come like either in the middle of a track or they'll keep it to the end of the track, which I kind of love, because often it gives the feeling of a kind of climax. Like, it feels rewarding when you get that colossal riff at the end that just brings the track to a close. And I like that they never overused the 8-string either. Like, I think we mentioned before, I had loads of comments on the reaction about this, but
I did, like, everyone, like, I was like, if you bear with us, we clear it up by the end, but everyone's clearly watching me in real time struggle with the concept of an 8-string and 9-string guitar, which they don't have a 9-string. For clarity's purpose, they don't play a 9-string guitar.
No.
That was me counting wrong.
Duncan can't count.
Can't count.
No,
can't count at all.
They used to have 1 7 1 8, but they're now 2 8-strings in the guitar in the band. Sorry, but I didn't feel like they abused it at all. There are moments where they drop onto that open 8-string and it just sounds really heavy, but they don't go overboard with it. They just bring it in enough for it to have an impact. A good example of that is Acrid Cannon, where it really doesn't make an appearance until about halfway through the track, and I like that. There's also a really cool riff on what was that one? Something about an Onyx.
Reverie on the Onyx.
Reverie on the Onyx. There's a real kind of Gojira type riff on that track. It sounds massive. It's got that kind of Gojira weight to it, but there's a little bit of kind of melody infused in it as well. The album closer, AUM, I mentioned earlier. Firstly, I love the sample at the beginning. I'm a bit of a sucker for a little sample at the start, and it kind of sets it up perfectly. Fuck me, it is fast. Like, it is ridiculous. Those blasts, along with the riffs, are just being played at stupid speeds. It's kind of verging on that kind of like Origin or Skinless kind of type level, almost kind of like Gravity blasts to a point. And there's a moment near the end of the track where I don't know how the vocalist manages to keep up with the speed, because it sounds like he's done it in one take, but he must be breathing out his arsehole, because it was just impressive. Like, regardless of how he managed to stay conscious, I thought it was really cool that he managed to get that whole kind of segment in. Production wise, Kyle might have a few things to say about that, but I thought it was very slickly produced. Like, it has Duncan mentioned, a very clinical feel to it, because it's so intricate. There's obviously, there is time alignment going on there, because, well, let's face it, the drummer is only human at the end of the day, and most likely some, sample replacement. But I think it works. I think going with something really organic for certain types of death metal works. But Archspire are a super high technical band, so I think going with a very mechanical and immaculate sounding production suits the band's style. And I think the overall balance is very good. Like, the bass is just perfectly placed in the mix for me. I thought it was superb. You can hear everything it's doing, even though there's so much going on around it. If I had any downsides on this album, I think there were points in the album where I thought they could maybe play it straight just a little bit more. it does feel like something is always going on this album. And although I thought the melodic lead work really helped bring more balance to the album, I think every now and again you could just pull back just a little bit, both in the guitars and the drums. I might be in the minority. Fans of the band probably love that kind of like full-on assault of technicality, but personally I prefer maybe a little restraint just to give the album more kind of breathable moments. And sometimes the guitars do, don't get me wrong, but the drums are still going with like, ape shit blast beats and fills over the top. So I think maybe simplifying it just on occasion might give more impact to the heavier sections. But overall, I enjoyed this. It's fairly intense, but it's only 30 minutes in length, so I didn't find it like it was too kind of taxing to listen. Musicianship is fantastic. Like if you're looking for something that's technically impressive, then this is a no-brainer. You can definitely hear they've taken the extra time during this whole COVID thing to meticulously piece these tracks together. I think it's come together very well. Duncan, what about you? What did you make of this one?
I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to like this, because when we listened to the single, and once again, the single, you tend to put the more catchier or commercial side of the band out as a single.
Yeah. And
this was still a daunting track to listen to, like very technically impressive. So I wasn't sure if I was gonna get this. I have a tolerance for there's a tipping point for me when it comes to kind of technical death metal that my eyes start to glaze over and start, maybe look out the window for a wee bit. Archspire are not in that category though. I found like huge sections of this incredibly rewarding. I think what it come down to is part of it was trying to put myself in the headspace of how you would approach writing a song like this, which I found really interesting, because when I would go back through and listen to it the second time through, having got to the end of the album and being like face melted, going back through it again, I would realise that there is a pattern to how they write their music.
Yep.
And I think once you get that pattern, you can then start to appreciate more what they do with that, with those spaces, those blocks of music, the sheer ability to craft as much uniqueness in these blocks that are set out in a template which is reusable throughout the album. The guitar work on this is like, honestly, some of the best guitar work I've heard this year. It's like on a completely different level. Drum wise, I mean, I'm with you, Dave. It's hard not to listen to this and visibly be erect. You know what I mean? It's so good. It's so good, and it's not a one-trick pony. You've mentioned bands like Origin, which I know you used to have like mad love for. Origin for me were the one-trick pony for the majority of like they did that Gravity Blast thing. They did it first, they did it best, but they did it too much. That's all they did, right? This band, they like when you're hearing the drum work on this, it's constantly inventive, and it's punishingly fast, but it's constantly inventive, and he's using he's finding bits of the kit that no one else has found before. Just like it's just absolutely jaw-droppingly good. Glad you mentioned the bass. I was shocked by how much bass I can hear in this.
Yeah.
Because that is not what I'm used to hearing. The bass player might as well not show up in a technical death metal band, because you ain't hearing them. You ain't hearing them. Unless he's just playing what the bass drum's playing on an open string. Because that's all you like. But it's odd. It's so clear, and there are sections, like you mentioned, where he starts to lead things. It's really, I wouldn't say, like, there is no weak member of this band. The vocalist, which I felt like you spent not as much time as I'm going to now, which I'm glad you did. I fucking love this dude. This dude is amazing. Like, it has that tone, and he has that style, and he delivers very much like we heard on Golden Mouth of Ruin. He delivers things in patterns and percussive, and I think that is perfect here. He's another part of the technical architecture that builds this band. His ability to condensely compact the amount of words he does into a phrase in a sentence at the speed he's doing it, at the volume he's doing it, without really sounding like he is like there's any kind of lull in any word because of he's run out of Steam or anything like that is like incredible. I'm with you. AUM, how he does that, don't know. It's fucking impressive. Death metal vocalists are a love or hate thing with me. I've mentioned this before. I think there's a lot of them that just have that one sound and that's what they want to do. And that one sound is the same all the way through it. And there's no variety or there's no interest in it. This guy doesn't have the biggest range in what he does, but because of its percussive nature, it's instantly interesting. Very, 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 very interesting. Try to pick apart an audible as well.
Yeah.
Like I could easily make out what the guy was like growling about, which is kind of awesome. Album short, sharp, to the point, gets out with what it needs to do. I weirdly am on point with you as well on this one, Dave. What I think this album is missing is sections of conventional playing. Just like bits where we hit a groove and we hammer that groove in. That's not to say they aren't done, but they're never really done on a level which I kind of feel they're almost teasing.
Yeah.
Like even when you hear like the end of, I think we mentioned at the time, the end of Golden Mouth of Ruin, when they hit that like really punishing riff at the end, it's played higher up than you would anticipate.
Yep.
It's not played right down on the open string or anything like that, on your top open string, where you're getting that full range of the 8 string. You're not getting that at all. It's played kind of higher up.
Yeah.
They do that quite a lot through here where you're expecting everything to open up, to be hit with something a bit more slower, that they kind of beat down, groove down, bash down, whatever we're fucking calling it. You're expecting that and they don't give you it, and it's weird that for someone that complains about that in so much music, when I come to this, I was kind of wanting it in bits that it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But then again, if I could play on the level that these guys can play, at the speeds at which they can play, that might just be boring. And I can understand and like they were saying, this is tailored to what gets the pops at their gigs, where the fans get crazy, and they've leaned into that. So their fans are clearly very educated musicians, because you kind of have to be to appreciate this music. I'm not saying that if you don't get it, you're a Luddite, but like I think even if you don't like this genre of music, you can marvel at the playing on this. I think it's difficult not to appreciate everything this band does without necessarily being a fan of one, the band, or two, the genre. Yeah. But it's all in here. I found this like I played this more times than I would usually play a technical death metal album. I spun this 5 times, and this was the last album I listened to. So this is 5 times over the last 2 days. And I've come back to it, and I'm still finding like a guitar bit when I'm like, how does, or like a vocal groove that he's doing, this percussion execution, which I just like. And I did vocals, and I have a good solid intake of breath. I can hammer out a lot in one breath, and this guy made me sound like a fucking amateur. Like honestly, I just like the way he is. I think you're right. I think the clinical part, maybe when I describe something as clinical, it denotes it as cold, and this isn't a cold sounding album by any stretch of the imagination. It's just the playing is precision perfect throughout, and that's on every single instrument. That's every part of the band. There's no sloppiness at all on this. Some people that might come across as kind of less interesting. To me, it was really rewarding. It was really weird. Like, I will score this higher than I score a lot of the bands in this genre that I think are doing things maybe not on par with this, but very similar, just because I think it has there was a lot of reward value for me to come back and listen to this again and again, and I will continue listening to it through. It's an incredibly put together album. Really, this is top level musicianship from front to back, and they make it sound like they're talking about the years of turmoil. And I hate, by the way, FYI, if you're listening to this review, guys, I would hate to be in a band where because one person in the band doesn't like something, that essentially scrubs it from existence. Just tell that person to sit down, have a Coke and a fucking smile. You know what I mean? Shut the fuck up, right? The rest of the band want this. It's called democracy. But yeah, I'm just prolonging this here because I don't want to hear what Kyle has to say about it. Because I get the feeling right now our seesaw is very heavily leaning to the light category, and something heavier is going to go on this side. Not that Kyle's heavy, and he's going to weigh it back to the middle. I don't want to be in the middle. Kyle,
Hi.
love you, love you.
You too. I say this with everything that I can. This is absolutely not my favorite production style.
Yes.
I will say it's very easy to be more extreme and faster when your computer is doing it for you. But that's as bad as I'm going to get, because as edited and aligned and everything that this is, I did manage to get past it somehow and look at the songwriting and composition for what it is, even if the actual execution is heavily edited. Not all the time, but a lot of the fast stuff you're talking about is definitely not that. Not all the time, and is a lie.
For someone that said that was all they were going to say at the start, you seem to be coming back to it.
No, it's but yeah, production aside, the composition and what they've gone for and the uniqueness of how they sound as a band is what I gravitated to more than, okay, you just lied to my face with how you play this stuff. But I mean, so I'm more on the like side of the fence than dislike. Which is surprising to me, because when we heard that, when we did the reaction, I was like, what the fuck, another one of these bands that just time aligns and replaces everything and all this shit. But they're different in the way they use it. Like, obviously it doesn't feel real when you're watching a band play on a video and hearing, fake stuff. It's like, I feel that's the disconnect for me, and that's what I don't like. It feels like I'm being sold an untruth, So I feel like, they say they recorded all their jams. I'd love to hear those jam recordings and see like how they sound in a room together playing this stuff than they do in a perfect studio environment when they've got all those tools at their disposal. Yeah. But no, it was absolutely, they had such, like, the vocalist's percussive delivery is unbelievable, and I don't know, I want to see that live too, because that is really good. I've never heard anything quite like it.
He's never in a million years going to be able to do that thing from live.
Right.
At that speed, he's not. No. I want to see, unless they open with that.
Yeah.
After a fucking set, there's no way you can just squeeze that in and get that. No way.
It's nuts. Yeah, it's so good. He sounds a bit like the one from Death Clock. That's what came into my mind. A little bit. Every now and then it gets like, oh yeah, it's Death Clock. But it's like growl rapping or something. I don't know. It's awesome, and I might sound like an old fuck not having the actual term for it, but I mean, I really liked it, and I like the way, I love the bass. I mean, when you have a great bassist in your band, you have to let them shine, and I'm so glad they did. And he's got these amazing runs and these fantastic passages that he's written, and they're just really good. The drums, like you said, are very uniquely played. The uniquely written, I'll say that. Very well, very masterfully. Everything's so masterfully crafted. And then, so that's what I gravitated to more with this than, obviously just covering it with plastic, but... So I mean, I was surprised at myself at how much I enjoyed this, and I listened to it more times than I thought I was going to, and I liked it more than I thought I was going to. When I managed to get past what fuckery they did to it, but like I said, if they ever play live and stuff, I would absolutely go and see them, because I want to see them play this stuff live. I really do, because some of it's just. You sit there and you think, okay, they've been so heavy and so like chopped up and crazy, and then they do this incredible like melodic section.
We're just in a counting how many times you mentioned the production now.
Yep. Well, it's a big part of a band's.
It's about 9 times more than you said you would.
Yeah, well,
as it was, he was drawing us in.
Yeah,
he was doing this. He was like, watch me draw them in, watch me draw them in, and it's the Columbo of reviews. Like, just one more thing. But the key thing is you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did, mostly because of the melodic sections as well, because they're so punishing and heavy, but then have these great, amazing melodic passes on top of all the heaviness, and it was just like, wow, that is some incredible songwriting and structure, and I loved it. So
yeah,
production number 6.
Okay, so let's wrap this up, because we're almost at the same length as the fucking album here. Ratings for the new Archspire album. As I said, thoroughly enjoyed it. 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes, and you're just. It's one of those albums that once it finishes, you could easily just stick it on again. Musicianship, very impressive. Technically amazing. As I say, for me, the only thing I would say is just maybe just play it straight, just every once in a while, just let things kind of breathe. And I think that would probably have more impact. But for me, there's very little downsides. I'm going to go 4.5 on this one. Duncan.
I'm coming in just marginally below you. This is a 4 out of 5 for me. Yeah, this is scored. If anyone goes back and listens to me generally review technical death metal albums, I don't think they ever get a 4. Very rare occasions, and this is the exception to the rule. It's incredible. It's really incredibly written music that shows that you don't just need to just fucking hammer everything and just go over it. Like, if you can take time to actually craft the songs and make things sound like they are fit for purpose and placed correctly, it goes a long way in making your music more interesting. So yeah, 4 from me.
Cool. And Kyle.
I'm going to join Duncan on that, actually.
Ooh.
Which is a surprise. I liked it more than I thought I would. Everything aside. So yeah,
Kyle.
Masterfully crafted songs. They really are very well written and composed, and I appreciate that a great deal. So.
This album kicked your goose, didn't it?
A little bit.
Once again, we're referring to things that have happened weeks ago. Weeks ago, this joke was cracked on a video a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Cracked like an egg from a goose.
Yeah.
Okay, the new album from Archspire, Bleed the Future, is out on October 29th on Season of Mist Records. You've got to check them out. I'll put links below to their Facebook and their pre-orders for the album on Bandcamp. Let us know what you think. If you've heard any of the singles, once you've heard the album, drop some comments in below. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That is the review. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Citizen